Okay, this is great. We've got ourselves had a few technical difficulties there for a minute. Totally due to, I think I forgot to hit a button. However, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our final presentation for our Red Deer Reads. And tonight we are going to be discussing Why Birds Sing by Nina Berkhout. And we have Nina and Suzanne here. So my name is Trish Klein. I'm the Adult Services Coordinator. I'd just like to start this presentation with a land acknowledgement. As part of my journey in reconciliation and out of deep respect for the First Nations and Métis people who live in what is now called Canada, their history and their culture, I would like to acknowledge that I live, work, read, and play on Treaty 6 and Treaty 7 territories, as well as the Métis of Region 3. This land acknowledgement is just part of our commitment to work toward a better and more fair relationship with all Indigenous people. So I want to thank both Nina and Suzanne for being here tonight. Nina is the author of 5 poetry collections, including Elseworlds, which won the Archibald Lampman Award. She is also the author of 3 novels, most recently Why Birds Sing, which was named a must-read by the Globe and Mail. Originally from Calgary, she now lives in Ottawa. Suzanne Hermary, her, is a settler of French and Scottish origins, raised in Red Deer like most of her large extended family. She is a bilingual musical theater singer, actor, director, and arts administrator in Central Alberta, working with creative humans of all kinds in her role as coordinator with the Red Deer Arts Council. She is also an avid traveler who loves to explore world cultures and cuisine, helping others to do the same as an independent travel agent in all her free time, which she doesn't have a lot of, and I know that. Suzanne is passionate about the absolute value of arts and creativity in our lives, empowering diverse and thoughtful expression in our community. She's also an avid cat lady with 3 fluffy children at home, ready for cuddles. Thank you both for being here. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn over the conversation to Suzanne and Nina.
Thank you, Trish. Thank you, Nina, so much for making the time to come and visit us this afternoon and to talk with me about your lovely novel, Why Birds Sing. I have to make a tiny mention, even though you can't see Trish's outfit right now, it really matches the cover of the book quite nicely.
Oh, how lovely.
I was like, oh, it's like tropical feeling, just like
so that's so nice. Well, thank you so much, Suzanne, for hosting and for championing my book, and thank you to Trish as well, and to the Red Deer Public Library and all the readers. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, I'm so happy to be part of this program. It really means the world to me, and it's wonderful. I'll always consider Alberta home, so it's pretty special for me. So thank you.
Well, thank you for taking the time and for writing this book, because it really is, when the library, whom I work with a lot just in my day-to-day, they talked about doing Red Deer Reads, and I had just finished watching Canada Reads 2021. And it was, I think, the first time that I've actually seen all 5 days of the challenge and championing of Canada Reads. And so it was really neat to say, oh, Red Deer's having one of these. And then to find out, that the other 2 books had been sorted already. They'd already been, assigned to a champion, but this one hadn't been. And then they described it to me, and I was like, yeah, this is my book, please. So it was really a neat opportunity to come a little full circle on some of the details for why I thought, felt really connected with the story. So I wanted to ask, before I get into all of that conversation, what inspired your idea for the book?
Sure. this one came about in a different way from my previous two novels. I was in the middle of writing something else entirely, and I had been working at it for quite some time, many months. I don't know, maybe close to a year, but it wasn't going well, and I had tried from so many different angles, and I think I knew deep down that what I was trying my heart wasn't in it. My heart was not in it. It was dealt with heavy subject matter, and my previous two novels all were, pretty. First one was focused on addiction. The second one was focused on nuclear war. And then this story as well, it was serious, it was heavy, and it just wasn't feeling it. And my partner and I were listening to the radio, and a song came on, and I was voicing my frustrations to him, and there was whistling, and I was whistling or something, and I just made a joke and said, oh, I should write a novel about whistling. That would be happy. That would be something good. I was joking, but he said, that's a great idea. You should. And that was the little grain. That's where the story came from. I then obsessively, I went to my computer and I started, I joined a forum, an International Whistlers Forum, and I read as much historical material as I could on the art of whistling and the history of whistling, which is extraordinary and extensive. And I learned so much, and there was a lot to learn that I wasn't aware of. I was so ignorant about the art of whistling. But right away, as I began to read and listen to it, of course, listen to these professional whistlers through time, I fell in love with it. I fell in love with it as an art form, as a beautiful form of music that I had never, I think, truly appreciated prior to this. So that's the origin of the story.
Nice. And so what sort of experience, because the lead character, Dawn, is an opera singer, and so you have quite a good little view into the opera world. I mean, I don't even know that I have that good a view into it, but I know toy, toy, toy. So I was like, oh, she knows toy, toy, toy too. So this is good.
Thank goodness. I didn't get it wrong.
You didn't get it wrong at all. Thank you, PBS and Masterpiece. So yeah, she, she's got this driven career in the professional opera world, which is, challenging. Of course, any career in the arts can be super challenging, especially when you get to that level of acclaim and so forth. But what sort of acknowledgement, or what sort of closeness did you have to the opera world, or that found that need to be the place where she was starting from?
That was another area, to be honest, that I really knew so little about. I had gone to some operas with my dad when I was younger, and I love certain arias and certain pieces, but I'm not musical at all. I can't read music. I don't play an instrument. I certainly cannot sing. Hopefully my whistling has improved now after all this. But that the world of opera as well was new for me, and I did avoid that approach, having my protagonist as an opera singer initially for that very reason. I thought it would be too difficult. And I tried the story in many other voices with other characters leading the way, and it didn't work. But always, I think, from the very beginning, as I learned about whistling, I did think there was a little voice in my mind saying it would be so neat to contrast this with opera, these two musical forms, because they have so many similarities and differences as well. But I think they complement each other quite nicely. And of course, Dawn, the protagonist, the opera singer, at the beginning of the story, she's on vocal rest and she can't whistle herself. And she's assigned to this troupe of whistlers to teach them arias. And she thinks that whistling is beneath her. She does not have an appreciation for it. And the whistlers sort of make fun of opera as well. But
and they're not alone in the fact that, you know, it can be a harder art form to approach. You know, it does have that higher cost to attend. You know, it's a little bit more elite, as you might say.
Yes.
So that's, I certainly understand that, but I'm glad that they all were open enough to listen to each other and try new things. So that's wonderful.
Hopefully they learned from each other.
I think they sure did. And that's actually sort of one of the next questions really that I had, was sort of what perspectives or beliefs did you find were challenged by the storyline, by the characters who were coming to this place of opposing views about what art is and all of this. What did you find was really a challenging conversation in the book that you liked working on?
I think because Dawn is so focused on her career and on her vocation, on singing, and she has spent her whole life working toward this goal of being a successful singer and becoming renowned in the world of opera. She has set aside everything else in her life, and she did not see the importance of community and of friendships and of the other things, you know, that the warblers, that these whistlers that she meets have an appreciation for. They're whistling for the pure joy of it. Mm-hmm. And for Dawn, perhaps once when she was younger, she sang for the joy of it. But as she progressed in her career, and there were all of these outside, you know, pressures and career pressures, that dissolved, and so she's very much isolated in her on her path. So I think that the one, you know, the belief that I tried to sort of challenge is that a life lived without community and friendship is really like, it's not a life worth living. And hopefully Dawn recognizes that by, you know, by the end. She is on a very rigid path, and that all changes. She takes a different approach, and she's welcomed in by these strangers. Yeah. And finally forges meaningful relationships midway through life. She finally takes the time to do that. So
I can actually recall when I was a student, I studied musical theater, and one of my classmates, when we were talking about how we, you know, chose this particular school out in Oakville, Ontario to study at, and she had been interested in doing opera and musical theater, singing, and her teachers basically said, you have to choose. If you get into the opera world, you can't do anything else. You are opera, and it's strict and it's prescribed and it's very standardized at what your repertoire is, and you don't mingle with those theater kids. You know, it was very clear to her that there was like this echelon, that difference that she was not allowed to surpass if she stayed up in, you know, wanted to stay in the opera world. So she said, nope, I'm gonna go do musical theater. And she did, and she's wonderful and talented.
And she's happy.
And she's much happier, yeah, for sure. I mean, she was able to have a family when the time came too. So, you know, it allowed her more freedom and more of an opportunity to enjoy the many different aspects of life, as opposed to just the career-driven nature of opera, which I mean, that's an outsider's view. That's what we can imagine. I'm sure that there are lovely, connections made between artists and such in the real world. But at the
Of
same time,
course.
this is how we view that lifestyle, is that it is driven, and certainly that's the way Dawn describes it, is that it's, all work, no play makes Dawn a sad girl.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you, Suzanne, would you understand that from the opera world and the singing life, and being in that sort of strict training. And for myself, although I'm not familiar with the world of the stage world of opera and that path, for me, I took the experience I had with the world of ballet, classical ballet training, and I didn't go into the professional career that I did, and I was in it for many years, and I saw that the life,
Yeah.
and what it was, and what it, for some it was wonderful, and they flourished, and you knew that was their bliss. But
Mhm.
for others, you really saw the struggle. They wanted to maybe try other things, and it just it was one or the other, as you're saying.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the predicament that Dawn is in. And you mentioned children and family as well, and she's having that that conversation and that issue with her husband in the story. At the beginning of the story, they, the question of whether or not to start a family, and the careers being very important when you're in your early 30s, and so there's that comes into play as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, for me, I mean, you can probably see my little scar. Earlier this
Yes.
year, I had surgery on my thyroid, emergency surgery down at Foothills, and I did not have a voice for about 2 months. So I really felt this book closely. So it was, I'm still working on getting my singing range back and fully, in shape again, but my speaking voice is back. But I felt very lost without it. I sounded gravelly and hoarse, and it was a much longer time than I thought it would, because I'm like, they didn't touch my actual vocal cords, but
Yeah.
in a sense they did with the intubation and so forth for the surgery.
Yes.
So it was,
oh my goodness. So
it was,
you understand completely, and that as well. It's I read so many stories of singers who had also undergone surgery as you have, and what they had to do to get back their singing voice, or what ways that their voices were damaged, and they still tried to continue to sing. And it reminded me of athletes in the Olympics, or a figure skater skating on a broken ankle. And it's incredible, because it's your vocation, it's your passion, and you will, do it no matter the pain.
exactly.
But
The levels to which we push ourselves.
Yes.
For excellence,
Yes.
for sure.
Absolutely.
So no, I definitely, that's when they described that, I was like, oh, I've been there, I've done that. Yeah, I think I'm the right person for this book. So no, I appreciated it very much. And what I did was I actually decided to learn the ukulele while I was recovering. So I'm not good yet, but I'm enjoying it, and I'm learning how to play the songs that I will be able to go back and sing on, patio concerts and for fun.
Fantastic.
While, get back into the musical theater side of things as we're ready to, and as theater ramps up again too. So it's it's wonderful. But that was really something that really twigged for me, as the journey of what losing your voice in this world also takes away from a person. So, and she found her voice in a new way with the warblers, and at the same time she lost other things, through that path. But finding her voice was actually the most important you know, her voice and her community were the most important sort of themes that I really resonated with through the story. I wanted to turn to a question that's sort of a little off the track from the actual
Sure.
storyline itself, because
Of course.
as the Arts Council, we serve literary, visual, and performing artists, but we didn't have too much in the vein of literary artist help for a long time. And so I've been trying to build that and working with some beautiful, amazing local authors and writers. And I just wanted to know, from your experience with your 3 published novels, what are your favorite and most challenging aspects of the publishing, writing, promoting a book sort of world?
Oh my goodness, that's such a big question. But I mean, the answer is, you know, the one word really. My favorite part is the writing itself, the act of writing. That's what it is. It's everything else is it's extra, and there are all these nice you know, wonderful things that can happen along the way, but it's, you know, the writing itself that is the best part when you're in that that zone. And as a singer, as a performer, I'm sure that you understand that. You know, there's a lot of it is sort of the love-hate as well, that goes along with the with the creative process. So for me, like you, I have a job, we work full time, and so it's trying to fit it in also full time and devote ourselves to this as well, in equal measure at the very least. So I go to bed very, very early, right? It was my bedtime half an hour ago, actually. It's 8:30 in Ottawa. So if we weren't talking, I'd be forcing myself to bed half an hour ago to get up very early to write. And I love that, but I hate it. There's nothing more magical sometimes than being the only one up. It's still dark. I'm writing and the light changes, and there are certain things that happen or that don't for many weeks at a time, but I wouldn't trade that for the world. But you know, you go to bed early. I have a very strict routine. I have to be disciplined about it. It's the only way that I can accomplish anything. So there's that.
I'm sure the ballet helped with the discipline too over time.
It did. And then when you've completed a book and it's done, another wonderful part is getting to work with these extraordinary editors and copy editors and typesetters even, who are magicians. I've met so many great it takes a team, right? It takes a whole team, and the people that I've been lucky enough to work with on these books, they're so talented, and they're really the ones who made it a much better story. So that's a huge bonus, is you learn so much getting to work with these people. But when you finish a book, I find, at least, maybe it's like finishing the run of a performance. You feel elated, and you feel like it's a wonderful feeling, but at the same time, you also feel emptied out, and you feel a little, there's a great loss that comes with it too. So it's there's the good and the bad. Often they go hand in hand, but the writing is the best part. And then one last thing I'll say is, of course, getting to meet, you know, getting to participate in community events like this one. I'd say that's one of the best things once you've written something, and if it makes its way out there, and if people have read it, like you and any other readers, that I can chat about it. That's fantastic as well. Community programs, for sure.
Excellent. Yeah, I think that you know, a lot of our writers in town had a lot of prolific work. They were writing up a storm throughout COVID, but those who had books ready to go and published and weren't able to have tours and weren't able to have the opportunity to meet people with the book readings and so forth, I know that a lot of them struggled. So I can't imagine what, you know, the last year and a half has been like for that push-pull of, you know, progress, but also being held up at the pass. So I did, because yours, Why Birds Sing, published in 2019. So it had a little bit of time.
Last fall. Yeah.
2020?
Yes. Yeah. So it was like, I think last October. So it'll be a year in October. So it's,
Okay.
yeah.
So
it was in the middle of the pandemic. Yeah.
So that's a challenge for you. Well, I'm glad that Red Deer found it, and Red Deer
is it. Me too. I'm like I said, it's a real. I'm so honored to be part of the reading program, and yeah, I'm glad as well.
Excellent. Well, there's a moment near the end of the book where you have the gang standing at the sort of the mouth of the St. Lawrence, and they were talking about, you know, sort of just overlooking some endings and some beginnings, and it really reminded me of a poem by David White called Finisterre. And it's a poem with regards to when people finish the Santiago de Compostela route in Spain, they can walk a few kilometers further and get to the edge of the world, which is what Finisterre means, end of the world. And the known world, of course, in the Pilgrim times. But just standing there and knowing that it's the end of one journey, but it's also the beginning of another. And they had, you know, a lot of people leave their boots there, the boots that they've walked these 400, 800 kilometers in at that point, that butte off the edge of the ocean. And I just wanted to sort of, it really, it sparked something in me. So I wanted to abandon the shoes that had brought you here right at the water's edge, not because you had given up, but because now you would find a different way to tread, and because through it all, part of you would still walk on, no matter how, over the waves. And I thought that that was just a really poignant moment that, like, your book just put me right back there to when I had, you know, watched David White, and that's W-H-Y-T-E, reading it himself at like a TED Talk or something. And it's just a beautiful sentiment. And it was so apropos for that moment in the story as well, that I wanted to share it with you, if nothing else. Because
thank you. I wish I could have put it so eloquently, but that's very, very moving. And yes, I mean, it's that's what we would all hope, is that when, you know, you leave one path and you leave certain things behind for something better. Yeah, there's a loss there, but you know, it's
and it's all right to grieve that too.
Yeah, definitely.
Forward is you know, every ending is a new beginning. So I thought that was really a big theme that I felt in the journey of the book too. So I wanted to sort of circle back on that, because it really it hit me right here, you know.
Thank you, Suzanne. Well, that's a yeah. I won't speak anymore because you've finished it beautifully. So
no, that's fine. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me, to especially, you know, like, I'm just some random person that you've met tonight. It's been wonderful.
Not at all. It's an honor. It's an honor, and it's so nice chatting with you. And thanks again to both yourself and Trish, and to the Red Deer Public Library, and to all of the readers. It really, I'm very grateful to be included in this program. So thank you.
Thank you.
Miss Alberta.
That was absolutely wonderful to watch the both of you and to see the connection that Suzanne definitely has with the book, and just to learn a little bit more about your process as well, Nina. And thank you so much for your time tonight. And we hope that you will watch the rest of it before you go to bed. But
Oh, I'll let you two chat, and much
you
more
can
interesting that way. So.
see there. So
Okay.
we're going to say
Thank
goodbye
you.
to Nina now, and then we will talk a little bit to Suzanne, more about her championing of your book. Thanks so
Thanks
much,
again so
Nina.
much.
Good night.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Yes.
Thank you.
Ah. that was absolutely wonderful, Suzanne. Thank you so much for agreeing to champion the book. And I don't know how serendipitous it happened to be, where when I started to talk to you about championing a book and what we were going to be doing with this program, and you said, "Oh, I would love to do that." And it was like, I have this book, and you went, "Oh my gosh, this book is so perfect," right?
Yeah.
And I think we've seen a lot of, from what you've said with Nina and everything. But of course, my first question is sort of a continuation of that, and maybe some more of why you connected to the book so well.
Well, I mean, I'm a theater person. That's kind of what I grew up on, is, being in musicals and doing shows even as a kid, and my college education and everything. And there's such an ambiance of community that exists in theater, but it's a temporary community, and it's even more so when you get into what I understand the opera world to be, because usually there's like 3 performances and then you're done and you're moving on to the next show. But the repertoire so well that you can sort of slot yourself into any production across the globe if necessary, which is kind of where everything goes awry in Dawn's career, is that she's slotted in at the last moment and it does not work out. And
No.
she actually physically injures her vocal cords. So I have loved the experience of being able to build that community and try to prolong it beyond the closing night of the play and so forth. And that's one of the lovely things about having a theater company in town, or a community theater group like
Yes,
I
yes.
that you get to work with the same people. Everybody loves to volunteer together. They have many roles that are on and off stage and creative, and everybody has a place to be. And that's one of the most beautiful aspects of it. And I really found it difficult as a kid to make friends outside of that community. So I understood her loneliness. I'm an only child, so I also understand that aspect of not having somebody that you can necessarily call on as close by, as a sister or a brother or something like that. But I mean, I have lots of extended family.
Yes.
Very big, but I'm an only child. And so, yeah, and even as I was, sick in hospital in February, I was, stuck in Calgary. I had, been taken by Stars Air ambulance down to the hospital. So I had nothing with me except, sort of the clothes on my back. And my mother was not well at that point here back in Red Deer. So she wasn't able to come visit me or anything either. And I was kind of alone, but
Yeah, and it's very difficult at this time to even have a friend or anybody come in and see you.
and I was, because I had a sore throat because of the issue,
Yes.
but because it was a sore throat, it had
Throat.
COVID. So I was in isolation for those 12 days. So
Wow.
it was me and the nurses all in their full garb, and they were
Mhm.
wonderful. They did their best to, keep me, happy enough.
Happy.
And I had my cell phone, so I was able to watch movies and such, but I couldn't even talk on the phone really without, hurting. So
Yes,
it was,
yes.
it was an interesting experience to be so isolated. And so I can really feel Dawn's sense of almost despair, because not only has she lost
Mm.
her community of peers in the opera world, because now she's, a self-described disgrace, even though really it could have happened to anybody who took the part. She was just
Absolutely, absolutely.
naive enough to do it. Um, and maybe a little bit of gall in there too, but thinking that she had it all wrapped up, and she didn't. So yeah, I felt that, and then also, the isolation of being alone, being unwell, being, not having your voice to speak for yourself in the world and get by. So I felt all of that very closely. And then she comes upon, this group of warblers. And I mean, I clearly need to do more research on whistling, because I didn't
There you
even connect
go.
so much, because I was all about the singing part of things, right?
Right, right.
Now I need to do some more whistling investigation. And I mean, I was always um, told I wasn't supposed to whistle, and it was I don't know why, but it wasn't
Encouraged,
yeah, it
or
wasn't
yes, it
encouraged,
was
and it wasn't proper, sort of thing, right? So
right.
it was, and it has some negative connotations in different aspects of the world. Like, I'm reading Jesse Thistle's From the Ashes right now, and he
Hmm.
talks about whistling in prison, and it's like, no, do not do that, and getting beat up within 10 minutes of arrival, kind of thing. So there's places where whistling is very verboten, and it's really yeah, it has an interesting history, I think. So I have to do some more, work on that. But I mean, there's a parrot, and she's not the nicest parrot all the time.
No,
She is
definitely not.
like, we haven't even talked about Tulip, but she's
No.
really, I love her. I'm like, if I didn't have three cats, I would
You would
have
have a parrot now.
maybe. But I really found it fascinating, the amount of work that Tarek had to um, do to keep her stimulated and to keep her engaged,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
how bonded she was with him, and how, close, and that he was her mate, even though he was human and she's a bird. And I thought that was really interesting as well. And yeah, it was an interesting, I didn't quite know where the parrot came from, but at the end of the day, I knew where the parrot
The
came
parrot
from.
came
Parrot
from.
existed
Yes.
in the story, for sure. And just a lovely, lovely community that she blends with, people of all ages, abilities, sometimes disabilities. And that was the thing that sort of kicked me. It was like, you got lips, you can whistle.
There you
You
go.
maybe not able to do it well, or um, you know properly, the way somebody would show you how to whistle, but not everybody has a voice, not everybody can sing or feels that they can sing, but everybody should be pretty well capable of whistling.
Oh, you have not heard me try to whistle. It is not a good thing.
Well, but
My
you
father
can
could
make a
whistle.
noise.
I cannot whistle.
But you can make a noise,
I
and
could make a noise.
it is a signal. It is a way to pass on a message if necessary, whether it be, with Morse code, or
Right.
uh, kind of thing.
Yes.
There's a language of whistling as
Hmm.
much as anything else. So I thought that was, a really a neat aspect too, that sort of has built with time. Like, it didn't feel so close when I first read the book, but it has grown in
Grown.
importance in the ponderings ever since.
Oh, as you go. I'm going to switch questions a little bit and leave one for the end here. So of course the main character, Dawn, has discovered this new community and way of belonging in Why Birds Sing. Can you speak to a time where you even unexpectedly connected with a community you didn't expect to and have found acceptance and belonging?
Um, goodness, it's a good one because I find it sort of all over the place
Right.
days. And that's because I'm kind of looking for that connection more than I ever have really in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Even in school, in my young days, I connected better with the people in the nursing home where my mother worked than I did with my classmates. I, connected with people half or twice my age, more than I connected with people who were my age. So for a long time, I was challenged by that. And then I realized, just embrace it. You're going to get a lot more wisdom from the people who are 15 years older than you, than
So
you
true.
than you are from the people 5 years younger. Not that there's anything wrong with people 5 years younger than me. It's just there, there's something to be said for having maturity in a group. But one of the places that I truly found a real sense of belonging was actually at the Hub on Ross. So
Yes. Mm-hmm.
community space intended initially for people with developmental disabilities, but open and welcoming to every single person who walked in the door, whatever your abilities were, needs, differences, um, challenges, you're always welcome. And it was wonderful. I mean, I I did a lot of my startup, integration at the Hub with part of my job, and creating
Right.
a program for singers actually through the Hub, and but going down to see how things were going and check in and maybe participate in a class, really allowed me the opportunity to meet some wonderful humans who were just so happy to see me every time. And, you know, and they didn't expect anything of me. It was just, well, maybe a hug. That's an expectation I can deal with.
Mm-hmm.
So it was always a really lovely spot. And so just a tiny plug in that the Arts Council is actually bringing back some Hub programming to
Oh, that's
the
wonderful.
side MCA North Side come fall. So yeah, sorry, shameless promo. But we
Why not?
we know the value of that meaningful socialization, the meaningful community, and the value of arts and culture. So to bring that back for this community that has lost it during the pandemic when it closed the
Mm-hmm.
doors of the Hub, when the province did that, we were able to, sort of see a way through to adding it back in a way. And so that's really one of the ways that I'm excited to bring it back again,
Right.
to bring back that sense of welcoming space that everybody can walk through the door or roll through the door, and feel that they're meant to be there. And
And that
there's
they belong.
exactly belonging
Yeah.
is huge for sure.
Yes, absolutely. Well, my final question to you for tonight is, of course, why does Red Deer need to read this book? Why should this book be the winner of Red Deer Reads?
Okay, I am not going to throw shade at either of the other two books.
They are wonderful books.
They're wonderful books. The Skin We're In is a nonfiction book. Uh, By Chance Alone is a memoir. The authors are amazing. Their champions are amazing. They did great jobs. I feel lucky that I'm the last person. I got to watch other people do it first, so that was good. Um, but this is a novel, and I think it's a lot more accessible as a novel to, you know, to encourage people to read it and to take on this storyline. Um, Even Nina was talking about that it's just a little bit more accessible than the other book that she had sort of been working on that wasn't coming through,
Right.
and that whistling somehow just sort of popped up as a starting point and was inspired as an idea. And there's, we're in a hard time in the world.
Very much so.
and with COVID and a whole bunch of things. And yes, there's a lot of work to do in terms of anti-racism, in terms of prejudice and genocide. I mean, there's so much of that in our daily lives coming through on the news and the media and the internet. And sometimes we just need a break. And I think that this is one of those lovely books that will provide that sort of respite from the unhappiness that sort of surrounds us in the real world, but still provides us with a story that is important, that's about human connection, that is about the things that bring us joy, that bring us peace, that bring us belonging. And I think that Why Birds Sing is really, you know, a book that will be accessible to many more people than either of the first two texts that were discussed with Red Deer Reads. But I mean, we should read all of them. There's, you know,
We should.
I'll
Yes.
read all of
Yes.
them.
Yes.
But at the same time, I feel like this one is something that, you know, a teenager can read,
Right.
a grandmother can read, you know, 12-year-olds can read, and they're not going to see things that are too naughty.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
it does have, you know, a little view into some of those things that we view as elite.
Right.
But, you know, a little view into that world of what opera is, and you can see that they're working just as hard as those Olympians on our TV screens every night,
Mm-hmm.
and that it has that breaking point. Like if you think about Simone Biles and
Yes.
Maria Osaka, and who, you know, they're saying, look, I got to take a step back or I'm going to hurt myself. And here's somebody who didn't take that step back and did hurt herself.
Herself.
And you know, these are high pressure moments. These are industries. These are you know, art forms and passions and drives, and we all have something that we excel at in that, whether it's, you know, cooking for the family or doing taxes. You know, everybody has something at which they excel, but we don't all pursue it to the point of excluding everything else fulfilling in our lives. And I
Exactly.
think that this is a book that can help us learn by watching somebody else go through it without it being a real human being having a terrible
A
life.
terrible time.
Because we are seeing that on the world stage right now.
Yes,
So
very much
it
so.
it's you know, novels are wonderful because they tell the truth of the human condition without having to necessarily tell one person's deepest, darkest moment in life. And yet you can experience that without having to, you know, press too closely to the heart.
Right.
So that's why I think that
Think-
this is a perfect read for Red Deer, a perfect read for the community to take on as a sense of belonging and a sense of meaning, and taking a sense of ourselves and
Mhm.
being cognizant of who we are and what we belong, where we belong in our world.
That is the perfect place, I think, to end, Suzanne. And I want to thank you so very much for being there when we needed a champion and being the perfect champion for Why Birds Sing by Nina Berkhout. And I want to again thank Nina for being here and telling us about her process and all about her book. And tomorrow we will be opening voting again. And so please vote for your favorite of the three. The Skin We're In by Desmond Cole, By Chance Alone, and or Why Birds Sing by Nina Berkhout. Somebody may be championing the book right now. I also
I
want
take my
to
job very seriously.
seriously.
I tell you.
It's
Go.
right there. You can see it. I also want to just have everybody save the date. Wednesday, September the 8th, in the evening at any book club at the Timberlands branch. We will be revealing the winner of Red Deer Reads. So put that in your calendar and check our Facebook page and all of our other social media, because we will be giving details about how you can watch. All right. Thank you again, Suzanne. And thank you everybody for watching. And don't forget to vote on our website, rdpl.org. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great evening. Thanks for all you've done, Trish.
No problem.
And a blast.
Bye.
Bye.
And we're out.